When working on Ultra Rewind, I had the chance to go into my old VHS collection. And I was reminded that Ultraman wasn't the only Tokusatsu show that snuck onto American home video back in the day. In fact, there's a whole world of obscure Tokusatsu films and shows that, for one reason or another, found their way into rental aisles and bargain bins alike. Motivated by this, I went on a bit of a deep dive. And in doing some research, I found myself tumbling into a place of things both familiar and heavily obscure. Computer boys and girls, today I present the findings of that journey. For Vintage Henshin, I'm Mike Dent, and this is my trek to the Lawless VHS zone. Real quick, for the sake of brevity, I'm going to be skipping around a bit. Namely, things that would require deeper explanation and or their own essays are going to be pushed to the side for this one. This includes things like the more out there Toho sci-fi releases like Eve Spy, or stuff like Bio Kids, The Adventures of Galgameth, Pulgasari, and regrettably, this also means a lot of the films by Sandy Frank.
Sandy Frank, Sandy Frank, he's the source of all our pain. Sandy Frank, Sandy Frank, woo! Get up at the house all day.
Don't
Sandy
panic about that last bit though. We're definitely going to be doing a deep dive on Sandy Frank Productions at a later date. I also won't retread too much ground that I already covered in Ultra Rewind, the first video essay for this channel, though there will be a few callbacks to it throughout. If you haven't already watched it, it's not the end of the world, but go check it out when you finish with this one. Even with me skipping around though, that still leaves us a lot of ground to cover for this video. There's a bit of a spectrum with these findings. On the one end, you have things that might have had a bit more notice and a little more attention. And then on the other side of it, you have the absolutely murky deep end of obscurity. So to kick this off, let's start in the shallows. Firstly, the 1971 P Productions TV series Space 8-Man Gory vs. Spectreman managed a myriad of international video releases. Believe it or not, around the same time that Ultraman was in syndication, all 63 episodes of Spectreman were broadcast and dubbed in the United States, as well as Brazil and parts of Europe. All these regions managed to get their own dubbed VHS releases. The American release for Spectreman came by way of Wonderland Video, with each tape focusing on a specific story or set of episodes. Across all international releases, a full Spectreman series box set never came to be until many years later. Specifically, France and Brazil landed their own dubbed DVD sets, with the latter coming close to a Blu-ray release in 2013, which was supposed to come out with Ultraman, licensed by way of our favorite people at Corporation. Based on what scrambled information I can find on this, the whole effort got a bit messy and it's unclear if they ever saw the light of day. But if you're after the original English dub, you're out of luck unless you're willing to rummage through bootlegs, as off-air recordings of all 63 episodes do exist and have been in circulation amongst fans for decades. As of this video in 2020, it's unclear whether or not the dub materials have survived intact or who even owns them. It's a bit of a murky situation overall. That said, look! One of Spectreman's contemporaries did manage a bit more luck.
Giant robot, obey! Into the air, up and away!
Toei's 1967 live-action adaptation of Giant Robo was broadcast with an English dub in 1969 by way of American International Pictures and retitled as Johnny Sokko and His Flying Robot. Spanning 26 episodes, the series managed a video run in the mid-1990s by Orion Home Video. Touted as part of a new Retro Classics label, the tapes only got as far as the first 8 episodes before vanishing entirely.
Robot! Giant robot!
This was something of a downer for American Tokusatsu fans at the time for 2 major reasons. 1, because it stopped after the first 8 episodes, and 2, because it was a brief glimmer of hope that went nowhere. See, by that point, American International Pictures and its television arm were both absorbed into Filmways production in the late 1970s, which in turn was bought up by Orion Pictures in 1982. which was bought out by MGM in 1997, who by that point had obtained United Artists and United Artists Television, who, if you remember, also produced. There was a fleeting hope that the Johnny Sokko Retro Classics run would pave the way for a proper home video release of the original Ultraman TV series. Unfortunately, this never came to be, largely because, well, for Orion, take it away, Weird Al.
Orion is bankrupt now.
But unlike Spectreman, Johnny Sokko persevered. In 2013, the entire series of Johnny Sokko and his flying robot was released on DVD by way of Shout Factory. The show's compilation film has yet to see any official release, but both it and the Johnny Sokko TV series can often be seen on Comet TV. At this rate, if Spectreman ever gets a legitimate stateside release, all we need is a DVD set for the Space Giants, the dubbed adaptation of Ambassador Magma, and the Four Horsemen of the 1970s Tokusatsu imports would be complete. The problem there is that it would require a bit of a miracle. Real quick tangent. According to Sci-Fi Japan, the American rights for the Space Giants had up until recently been stuck in a legal battle on par with the Tsuburaya v. Chayo mess in terms of frustration. The Space Giants TV show was and still is owned by Bernard Shulman and Lakeside Television Company. In 1979, artist and former pro wrestler Pasquale Gabriele put out a licensed one-shot promotional comic via his company, FBN. Following mixed results at launching new Space Giants comics in the years after, FBN would become Power Slam Productions, and Gabriele would start asserting that he had the rights to the full series proper, even going so far as to release illegal tapes and DVDs on eBay. Shulman would eventually take notice and intervene by shutting down any and all auctions related to Gabriele and Power Slam, and the whole thing swirled into a giant mess. For further reading about this, check out the description for this video. Pasquale would pass away in 2016, and the following year, rumors began to circulate about Shulman and Lakeside producing a legitimate Space Giant set, but as of 2020, this is yet to materialize. While we're on the subject of shows that desperately needed to be saved, hit it, Brian May! Classic Family Entertainment put out VHS tapes of Starfleet, the English adaptation of Go Nagai's X-Bomber in 1988, just 6 years shy of its syndication run in the United States. According to Maser Patrol, the tapes featured episodes recut into larger stories that spanned 8 volumes. There was also supposedly an uncut version, but much like the initial release from Classic Family, this too has faded into obscurity and can't really be verified. In time, Starfleet was released on DVD in the UK, but was recently put out on standard definition Blu-ray by Discotek Media, alongside the original English subtitled X-Bomber episodes. As much as Starfleet had going for it, I still find myself recommending watching its original form of X-Bomber, if only because of the epic soundtrack. Fun fact, you can buy this on Amazon Music right now for $9. From here, we've reached the midpoint of the spectrum, and we are slowly starting to slide into that obscure murkiness. And nonetheless, there is some great craziness to behold. In 1982, Family Home Entertainment released a compilation film based on the 1977 TV series Dai Tetsujin 17. Released as Brain 17, the movie features an over-the-top English dub of select episodes, with incredibly localized names, the crown jewel being Saburo turned into Stevie, and the best narrator ever who was just trying his hardest to nail that Gary Owens impression.
Why is the mysterious iron robot, manufactured by the now-turned-evil Brain, helping the Defenders? And why does he react only to Stevie? Why? Meanwhile, the steamroller robot attacks the city, crushing everything in its path. It can't be stopped. What will they do?
Brain 17 reportedly was released under two other titles, The Great Brain and Revenge of the Defenders, its initial production title. Funny enough that it came out several years after Dai Tetsugen toys were included as part of Mattel's Shogun Warriors line in the 1970s, and it was also coincidentally concurrent with Bandai's Godaiken line of re-release toys in the early 80s, Dai Tetsugen himself included as part of the lineup. In either case, as of 2020, Brain 17 has yet to see any official DVD release and remains a relic on YouTube. Bringing things full circle, the dub was produced by 3B Productions and directed by a veteran of the original Spectreman dub. At around the same time as Brain 17, 3B was involved in another incredibly obscure adaptation. Just 1 year prior, 3B worked with Toei to localize Message from Space Galactic Wars into Swords of the Space Arc. Stay with me on this one, it's a bit of a ride. Message from Space was Toei's big-budget attempt to cash in on the post-Star Wars SF boom. Directed by the late Kinji Fukasaku, who held Battles Without Honor and Humanity and Battle Royale, and co-written by Shotaro Ishinomori. Topped with an all-star international cast, it was the most expensive Japanese film of its time. Released in 1978, it sadly didn't fare well internationally. In spite of this, Toei made the decision to have a spin-off TV series. Once again based on a premise by Shotaro Ishinomori, Message from Space Galactic Wars would come out in 1979. It's worth noting that the show's title in Japanese, Ginga Taisen, can also be technically translated as, just saying. Galactic Wars, strangely enough, was shown in the Philippines under the title Space Ninjas. And additionally, it was shown in Latin America and parts of Europe, where it had another entirely new name, and with it, the added bonus of a killer new theme song. The title? I'm getting a little off track. Galactic Wars did end up making it stateside in 1981. 3B edited the series into a movie with the title Swords of the Space Arc. Contrary to popular belief, Swords was not representative of a fully dubbed TV run. Rather, it was the compilation movie itself which was broadcast on American TV by the Christian Broadcasting Network in 1983. Like Brain 17 that came after it, Swords of the Space Arc was never officially released on DVD. Once again, thanks to Discotech, the full original series of Message from Space Galactic Wars was released on standard definition Blu-ray in late 2019 as part of their foray into tokusatsu TV shows. It is definitely worth the purchase, if only for babyface Hiroyuki Sanada and the incredible insanity of the main storyline. In the early 2000s, several films by designer and director Keita Amemiya had found their way to North America, largely thanks to the Media Blasters Tokyo Shock label. But prior to those, Fox Lorber Home Video quietly put out English-dubbed releases for two of Amemiya's earliest works. In 1994, Fox Lorber put out Zeiram on VHS, with a clever typo and some choice taglines.
The people of Earth are about to be visited by some guests. While they're here, try and make them feel welcome. If you can't take the heat, get out of the galaxy.
Instead of the Japanese dialogue with English subtitles, it came out with an English dub produced by Carl Masek and Streamline Pictures, the pioneering studio responsible for the original English dubs of Akira and My Neighbor Totoro, to name a few. On top of that, the dub featured the likes of Edie Merman from Robotech and Digimon Digital Monsters.
Well, I see you got the language down. And in record time, huh?
And the late Robert Axelrod, best known as the voice of Lord Zed from Power Rangers.
Get it away! It's disgusting!
Zeiram would eventually be re-released by Tokyo Shock in 2006, with the streamlined dub included along with the original Japanese track. As for the other title that Fox Lorber put out, it hasn't been quite as lucky. Amemiya's first feature film, Mirai Ninja, was released theatrically in Japan in 1988. A low-budget film with high ambition, it's fondly remembered for its killer design work, as well as the video game from Namco, who co-produced the film. Fox Lorber released Mirai Ninja in 1994 along with Zeiram, once again with an English dub produced by Carl Macek, but now under the incredibly 1990s title, Cyber Ninja. The promotional blitz for this one was also interesting.
Critics and sci-fi fans around the world are blown away by Cyber Ninja. Non-stop special effects, reminiscent of Star Wars. A sci-fi samurai. Deliciously original.
Unlike Zeiram, however, Mirai Ninja was never picked up by Tokyo Shock, and for a time it looked like the dub was considered lost to the ages. That is, of course, until the advent of bargain DVDs. Somewhere within the depths of the Ninja Collection, or the History of Ninja Collection, don't ask me why it has two titles, keen-eyed fans spotted the long-lost Cyber Ninja, looking to have been simply ripped from tape and slapped onto DVD. To see the movie, along with a couple other random ninja flicks, the set is still available on Amazon for dirt cheap, but sadly, they won't honor the original catchy buy one get one deal.
Act now and get ready for a cyber dose of big dollars when you buy one copy of Cyber Ninja and receive the second free.
The two of us could make quite a team. What do you say, Cyber Ninja?
Neither man nor machine. Cyber Ninja.
And, oh, sweet mother mystery, I have been looking forward to talking about this one. So, in 1984, American toy company Remco put out Secret of the Ninja Actionized, a line of bland, unexciting action figures poised to cash in on the growing ninja craze. Also, bear in mind that Remco was the same company that had the brilliant idea that a giant helmet with a loud siren and Spock's name on it was totally appropriate for a Star Trek toy line. But somewhere along the line, Remco got the idea of a better way to market the figures to kids, by putting out packages with 2 figures apiece along with a VHS tape and encouraging kids to recreate the action you're watching with the figures. And thus, in 1986, 3 Secret of the Ninja tape packs were released. But out of the 3 packs, there is one that remains the most memorable, containing a gem simply known as Magic of the Ninja. But it was known to some fans by another name.
Lion-Maru.
As it turned out, Magic of the Ninja was the first episode of the 1972 P Productions TV series Kaiketsu Lion-Maru, but dubbed entirely in English for some reason.
Give me strength. The art of shape-shifting. I am Lion-Maru!
Over the years, the randomness of its inclusion has left people wondering if this was meant to be a pilot for Lion-Maru in the States that maybe just didn't land. As of 2020, no further information on it has ever really surfaced. Though what really made Magic of the Ninja special was the figures it came with. Remember how the marketing encouraged kids to recreate the action they were watching? I'm pretty sure kids were puzzled how to mimic the exploits of a lion samurai with Taekwondo warrior and ninja. Aside from the 3 packs, no other Magic of the Ninja episodes were ever released, and all 3 tapes of the Secret of the Ninja line were eventually re-released on VHS by Kids Classic. Either way, it remains one of the strangest oddities of the list. But still not as strange as the Spock helmet, though. Remember Associates Entertainment International from Ultra Rewind? They were the group that had co-produced the compilation movie Ultraman 2 with Tsuburaya Productions. Well, as it turns out, Ultraman 2 wasn't AEI's only collaboration with them. In 1984, AEI released Return of the Dinosaurs, a feature-length compilation comprised of episodes from Dinosaur Expedition Born Free, the TV series that formed part of the Tsuburaya Dinosaur Trilogy, along with Eisenborg and Poseidon. Over-the-top premise aside, the film hit instant cult status due to Born Free's unique blend of live-action, 2D animation, and stop-motion techniques. The very stilted English dub also probably helped.
The earthquakes have upheaved ground that was buried 100 million years ago.
100 million?
Look, over there. The plants are withering. Where's the gun?
In the locker.
Josh, bring the gun.
Three rifles should kill any dinosaur we find. There's a drug bomb.
Return of the Dinosaurs is yet to be re-released apart from its original VHS outing anywhere else. That said, all three of the Dinosaur Trilogy shows have managed various degrees of international success, Eisenborg being popular enough in Saudi Arabia that a mega fan helped to finance a whole new episode in 2017. Never mind the Koseidon remake that is reportedly in the works by Tencent Pictures. Stand by for more info on that one. And now we have reached peak obscurity, because the gems I'm about to talk about are quite out there, with one of them considered as a holy grail for VHS collectors. Flashback to the 1970s. Tsuburaya co-produced a film with an American company poised for theatrical release, with the bulk of the film shot in Tokyo at TPC's own studios. The American company in question is once again one that you would not expect.
It's a difficult responsibility when you accept an appointment from His Majesty.
Rankin-Bass Productions is best known for their array of Christmas and other seasonal specials, on top of several animated films and TV shows. The fun fact here is that a lot of these projects were outsourced to Japanese studios. Some of the big ones include Topcraft, the precursor to Studio Ghibli, as well as Toei Animation. But they also weren't strangers to the world of Tokusatsu, as Rankin-Bass co-produced the feature film King Kong Escapes with Toho in 1967. The YouTube channel Pics and Portraits has a great video on the subject of Rankin-Bass's Japanese connections. Click the card to check it out. I highly recommend watching it. But back to the 70s. Rankin-Bass and Tsuburaya Productions were aiming to make a theatrical feature for US release. Entitled The Last Dinosaur, the film boasted an all-star cast, a theme by Nancy Wilson, top-notch practical effects. This had to land some kind of deal, right? Well, it didn't. The Last Dinosaur initially failed to find a theatrical distributor, but it did succeed in finding a spot as a television movie on ABC, where it was broadcast on February 1st, 1977. Rankin-Bass would work with Tsuburaya again for two more films. First was The Bermuda Depths. Starring Lee McCloskey and Carl Weathers, the film was broadcast on January 27th, 1978. The second film, The Ivory Ape, starring Jack Palance, was broadcast on April 18th, 1980. Now, this is where it gets interesting. For a time, if you wanted to see The Last Dinosaur, your only hope was tracking down the Japanese Laserdisc or VHS. From what information I could find, neither the Bermuda Depths nor the Ivory Ape were really all that lucky, with the only real VHSs between them being either international outings or total bootlegs. As of 2020, things really haven't improved on this front. The Last Dinosaur and the Bermuda Depths are available on DVD thanks to the made-to-order Warner Archive service, but it's when we get to the Ivory Ape that it gets troubling. Now, to actually watch the movie requires some extra legwork. The most common route is tracking down a copy of a bootleg with burned-in Dutch subtitles, and then purchasing it through some less than trustworthy websites. Which is why there's no footage of the Ivory Ape in this essay. I didn't feel like gambling. Because of this difficulty to track it down, there are those who have labeled the Ivory Ape as lost media, and the lack of movement in both Japan and America to get it a proper release have only ramped up its status as both this and as a white whale for many a collector of monster movies. And from here, we are free of the lawless VHS zone. Well, for now anyway. There's plenty more random obscure movies and compilations out there, some of which I'll cover on this channel at a later date. Hell, maybe there's even more out there we've yet to discover. And the prospect of that is just thrilling. It's the adventure and discovery of things like this that made me want to start this channel in the first place. And it's what keeps my being a Tokusatsu fan exciting. Suffice to say, I cannot wait to see what turns up next.